1905 Russell portable steam engine. And you get your piston here, controlled that main wheel. And this one apparently was horse-drawn, so it wasn't even under its own power. But these are very interesting. This is a big one. This would have been a case, I'm sure one of their early ones, and it would have been self-powered steam tractor. You see your piston up there. It drove your flywheel gear, and then your gears down in behind the wheels here. They geared it all down, so it was possible to move this thing. I don't see a stand to drive it, but I'm sure there was just a place to stand and drive it behind it and operate it. Everything was probably a little platform back here at one time. But you can even see this one had coil springs on it. I would think that's very advanced for its time. And then you've got your power takeoff here. You could have run a mill with that. And then it was driven with chains. You've got your coil gear here that would turn it one way or another, and you had your chains wrapped opposite, and it would slowly just pull the front axle one way or another. I'm sure they moved very slowly. Very interesting. And I take it this was their crest. Pretty cool. Alright, Boating Up Films here at Cannonsburgh. Looking at some antique tractors. These are very interesting. This was early technology. Gasoline engine tractor. And they have got a lot of them. McCormick Deering. Interesting. It's a 1929 model. You notice these didn't have the rubber tires then, they didn't need them. And you've got a belt takeoff there where you could have run a mill or whatever you needed, or other equipment that would have needed to be run. This one didn't have a power takeoff. That would have been your power takeoff for that particular tractor. It's interesting though. Another one. Looks to be about the same era in time, but it had pneumatic front tires, and there's your power takeoff on that tractor. It's probably a 4-cylinder gas-powered engine. Very interesting. McCormick Deering as well. And they had the whole hand crank starts on them. And I've heard stories about those from my grandfather. There's another McCormick Deering. These did have pneumatic tires in 1937. Still a crank start. This probably would have been before diesel engines, probably still gas powered. And the funny thing about gasoline, you know, kerosene was the most, yeah, it does, it has a power takeoff as well. This would have been the first modern power takeoff of its kind. which is the same thing that tractors use today. But gasoline was a byproduct of making kerosene. So it's also got the option for the big band power takeoff as well. So this would have been a really good multitasking tractor. This would have been the pick of the year right here. You would have had some options. And it wasn't until the advent of the internal combustion engine that gasoline actually had a use. Otherwise, it was just a byproduct that was probably disposed of. Or look at the steering gear assembly for this thing. We have come a long way. There's no Farmall. So I guess McCormick Deering turned into Farmall. (1934). And there was a lot of these tractors made even up to the 20s with the two front wheels together is generally what they had. And they had an enclosed steering assembly, which was probably a lot more reliable and easier to maintain. Well, here's a big boy. You've been getting into some farming there. And this is what I'm talking about with the two dual front wheels. These were dangerous. I know my stepdad's father had one of these turn over on him on a field. It's a 1939 F20 Farmall. But, you know, they weren't real stable. And again, we're getting into another big tractor here. And you've got your band power takeoff. 39 Farmall. And these are the Farmalls I remember as a kid. Similar to these, they were still in use. It's a 1941 model. And you've got your power takeoff probably in both places. And left side on there would be your clutch. And then these two, the left pedal would operate your left rear brake and the right pedal would operate your right rear brake. Or you could put them both down to completely stop. Or hold one wheel to make tighter turns. Here's an old Case. That's a neat looking tractor. And it had the wide axle in front. It would have been a lot more stable. And the engine sits in here sideways, which is interesting. It's a big 4 or 6 cylinder. I'm not sure what that is. This would have been quite the tractor back then. Let's see what year it is. We'll see a power takeoff on the back. I don't know what that is. That's some kind of very unusual engine. I don't see a year on it, but unique tractor. It's another small Case, crank start. 1929. And all tractors had toolboxes to keep your tools in. Apparently even back that long ago. Let's see this other Case. It was a 1919. Unique engine on that one. I'm not sure about that. It's a big 4-cylinder there. Another Case. (1930) model. Looks as though it's another Case, and they went with the front split wheel design, which I'm sure those were easier to navigate your rows and stuff when you were planting or harvesting, and that's why they did that, I'm sure. And they were probably meant to be used on flat land, but another 46 case. There's a unique steering assembly on this case, 1949. It's a big boy here. Case. Full pneumatic tires. In 1950 you were starting to get into similar version of tractors today. And then you had your hydraulic lift assembly in the back, and you also had a power takeoff. This would have been a nice tractor to have. This is an interesting tractor. It's a Porsche diesel. And it looks a little bit different. Get the back wheels off the ground. See, your gauge is busted up there, but this was probably an early diesel. Another small garden tractor. It's a leader. Never heard of one of those. (1947 through 50). Interesting engine design. This one's got a battery in it. It probably runs. Well, a lot of these would probably run. It's a big old tractor there. That might be a Deere. No, it's an Oliver. 1943 Oliver. I'm sorry, a 1945 Oliver. So many tractors. Fordson. It's interesting. Solid rubber tires on this little tractor. These poles are tight. It's hard for me to get in there and get you a good wide shot of this little Fordson. Single wheel on the front. And that is a Silver King. Another Silver King. 1939 with full pneumatic tires. Here we go, we're getting into Deeres now. John Deere. Full pneumatic tires. And this is a 1948. So, you know, John Deere, I'm guessing, may have been a little ahead of the times in tractor manufacturing. Here's a John Deere with a PTO drive. And it's a 37 with pneumatic tires. They were a little bit ahead. A little more advanced tractors. Moving a little quicker here. John Deere. 1936. You sit way out there on the back on that one. And this looks to be a very old John Deere. And it is. It's a John Deere. It's a 36 model. And it looks like the treads have been taken off. And there you have it. And that is the Tractor Factor. Cannonsburgh. Very unique assembly of tractors.